Hello, Sergio Mims. We're going to be talking about some TIFF movies you saw this year. But
That's
my
right.
first question is, have you been to Toronto to cover the festival in person?
No, I haven't. I
Mhm.
have not. Everybody tells me to go. Everybody. And I always been meaning to go. I will go in person one day. But since of the whole situation that we're in,
Mhm.
uh, a lot of the films were available virtually. And if you were a critic or covering the festival, you had passes, or they would give you access to see films during the festival or even just before. So not only was it the first time I've been to Toronto,
Mhm.
technically, it was also the first time I've been to South by Southwest, technically. It was the first time I was at Sundance, technically. I'm waiting to hear about, as a matter of fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, Sundance is going to start announcing the films for next year very soon. I think this
Ooh.
week.
Ooh.
I
Yeah,
think this
I,
week.
I also
It's usually around the Thanksgiving. Oops, we gave it away. It's usually around the Thanksgiving holiday.
yeah. So yeah, I cover South by Southwest as well, and I've never been to Texas. But it was a lot of
And do
fun.
you
And
really
same
want
with
to go? But anyway,
yeah, and Tribeca. I did Tribeca, and then I applied to Sundance. So we'll hear back soon. But
yeah.
yeah, it's totally different. Virtual festivals. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on for. Maybe.
No, because I co-host the program, the Black Harvest Film Festival,
Mhm.
which is going on right now. It's usually in August and it's in November. We have about another week and a half to go, technically, with the festival. It's always a month long. Um, we decided to do it in November. Well, last year we did a virtual thing, like everybody else.
Mhm.
But this year we're back in the theater, the Gene Siskel Film Center. We're also showing films virtually as well. Not all movies, but several, but at least half of them. And also all the shorts programs are available virtually. I will tell you that the attendance this year has been lower than usual, and I think it's a combination of things. First of all, I think people are still a little hesitant, you know, about going to see movies. Number two, it's November in Chicago. It gets cold. In August, it's still warm. It's still nice. It's still daylight at 7:30. So and here, at this time of year, it's practically midnight at 4 p.m. So it's a different thing. We're going to see next year if we're going to go back to November, or we're going to do November again, or we'll go back to our original date, which always our date was in August. It depends on the situation. We are hoping, crossing our fingers, that everything will be pretty good by September. That's what we're hoping.
Cool.
Uh, by August, I should say by August. That's what we're hoping. You know.
Mhm.
Um, but once again, we shall see. We'll talk about this. I'm talking about when we put together the festival and all that. We'll talk about that at the beginning of the year. What we're gonna do next year. It's still pretty much a touch and go thing, because you want to prepare, you want to expect the best, but you also want to prepare for the worst.
Absolutely. So, uh, one thing I always enjoyed at TIFF is at their award ceremony, they have a Roger Ebert Award,
Mhm.
which goes to a true original in the film industry. Um, who I think Denis Villeneuve won this year, and I think Joaquin Phoenix won in 2019. I'm not. I don't. Maybe I should have checked that before, but anyways, what as a Chicago resident, what do you think about that?
About the award?
The Roger Ebert Award at the Toronto International Film Festival. Are you happy that Roger Ebert gets his props?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He changed the game when it came to film criticism. Um, I mean, of course, there always been film critics before Roger Ebert. And there were film critics who were regulars on television before Roger Ebert. I
Mm,
remember back in the day, Judith Crist, who used to appear a lot like on Today's Show and Dick Cavett show. And then, of course, there was Rex Reed. Is he still
mm,
around? There was Rex Reed. Appeared a lot on television. But when Roger Ebert came around with Gene Siskel, they changed the game in the fact that, how can I phrase this? They made film criticism in a way more accessible to people. Because before then, film criticism was considered almost elitist. It was considered for only a certain group of people who wrote about it and a certain group of people who would read it. But with Cisco and what Roger Ebert did, especially Roger Ebert, was that they approached it from a more accessible, um, everyday man point of view. They were very passionate about movies. They were
mm,
very passionate about films, and particularly particular films that they loved. And also they could be equally passionate about movies that they hated.
mm,
But they made it possible for people to understand movies better. They really did. I mean, I still read film reviews today. I won't mention any reviewers,
mm.
but I still read reviews today in which I have no idea what a person's talking about. Are you talking about a movie? Are you talking about some other esoteric thing?
Mm,
I don't understand. And by I don't know. I won't mention the
mm.
reviewer, the
Sure.
critic. I won't mention the movie. But at the end of the review, and this was just a few days ago, I was like, I guess they liked it. I'm not sure because it seems they were talking around the picture, not talking about the film. And I think that's one thing that Roger Ebert did brilliantly well. He always talked about movies. He always gave his very personal viewpoint about a film. And I think that's why he was so popular and so successful and became an inspiration to a lot of people who want to review films. Like you think about it. Why would anybody want to review a movie? And I mean, let's face it, everybody's a film critic.
Mhm.
Everybody's a film critic. When you go see a picture, you come out, you like it or you don't.
Right.
Everybody's a critic, okay? What a film critic can do is to take a film and to break it down and analyze it in a way. Let me explain to you why this film is so good.
Mm.
Or let me explain to you why this movie is so bad. Let me explain to you why this film works. Why, for example, you jumped out of your seat during that particularly scary moment. Let me break it down why that works so effectively. What did the filmmaker do to get their reaction from you? So I think that's what film critics do best. Not only just review movies, tell them whether you liked the film or you didn't like it, but to explain why and why it worked or why it didn't work and how a film is constructed. And I don't do really that many, well, on radio, on podcasts, yes, I do. But I will try to break down what a movie does. I just saw a film today, a film that's very much um, gotten a lot of praise. It's gotten a lot of praise. Everybody raved about this picture, um, starring an Oscar-winning actress, directed by an actress. You may guess what this movie is.
Mm.
I saw this picture about halfway through. I said, I don't like this film at all. And as a matter of fact, I remember tweeting a friend and I said to him, I don't like this picture. I'm not liking this film at all. And he responded back to me. He said, well, in that case, there's nothing in the second half of this movie that's going to make you feel any better about it. And he was right. You know, now I can tell you why the film didn't work for me. Um, and like I said, with terms of film critics, I'm part of Chicago Film Critics Association. I hang around film critics all the time. We go see movies together or at home and we're watching movies and we all have our opinions. And the thing about it is that's so great is that we can have different different opinions about a particular picture or a particular filmmaker. And we respect each other's their opinion. And also the other thing, since I do I've been doing Blu-ray commentaries for like Kino and for Arrow, and I've lost count how many I've done. As a matter of fact, I had to make a list the other day for somebody, and I think I only remember half of them in the last 2 or 3 years. The thing about it is that, okay, I know this is going to sound like bragging, okay? But one of the things about doing commentary, and I'm really privileged to do commentaries on Blu-rays because and I'm talking about older films. I'm not talking about, yeah, there are commentaries by directors about their movies. That's fine. But particularly older films in which, people who made it have passed away or they're just not available. Older films like from the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, even the 40s, even the 90s. Thing about it is that there are very few people who can do this kind of job because you have to have a knowledge of movies from, say, a particular period of time. My specialty tends to be movies of the 60s and 70s. Now, I've also have done commentary for film in the 90s. I have done commentary for film in the 40s. But, 60s, 70s, 50s, that stuff I kind of specialize in, and other commentators do, because that's the stuff we grew up with. I grew up watching those movies. If not on TV, then going to the theaters with my father or with the family or by myself. So those are the movies that I gravitate to. So when a movie comes out, I just did a commentary for a movie that came out in 1966 with 2 other commentators. And I think it's going to be a really great commentary, really great. We had a lot of fun doing it, and we know that picture. We know it. I mean, younger people may not know the picture at all. We do, because we were raised on those kind of movies. So to do a commentary on a movie like that, and to give your input and your analysis, why this film works, why this film still works today, decades later, why it still resonates, why it still has an impact. We try to break that down in a commentary. So that's a very, very long-winded answer to what the question you asked me.
That's okay. That's okay. I appreciate it. And I've listened to some of your commentary tracks, Penitentiary and Sweetback, and the lots of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about some TIFF movies though. So
okay.
You saw the Dion Warwick documentary, and I haven't seen that. So I would love to get
Yeah,
we
premiered that opening night at the Black Harvest Film Festival. There was an opening night movie.
Oh, cool.
And we had Dion Warwick via Zoom.
Oh, nice.
After the movie. She was supposed to be there in person, but then a couple of days before, she told us she would do a Zoom. We had the filmmaker in person, but Dion Warwick we did Zoom with her at she lives in New York, or outside of New York. And the reason why was because the very next day she was on Saturday Night Live.
It's a good reason.
Right. I mean, I didn't know this. Evidently, one of the performers at Saturday Night Live does a bit where she plays Dionne Warwick. I didn't know that. So the skit was Dionne Warwick is doing a talk show, and she brings in current contemporary singers, and she has no use for them, and she throws them out. And then finally, the performer says, "Well, the only person I can really interview is myself." So Dionne Warwick came out, and I go like, "That's why she couldn't come for opening night because she was rehearsing for Saturday Night Live. Okay, that was great. Okay, about the movie,
Yeah,
it's good.
it's decent. Okay,
Now I
fair
shouldn't
enough.
say that because it's
You know
we
a lot
showed
about
it,
her, I guess.
and I think we're showing it. Yeah, we are showing it again this week. But it's good. It, it's 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 um it's a big tribute to her. If you want to get into depth about her, this is not the movie. This
Mm.
is just triumph after triumph, hit song after hit song, hit
Oh,
album after hit album, soda concert after soda concert,
right.
either here in the States or in Europe or everywhere. If you're a Dionne Warwick fan, and a lot of people are, you're going to love this. People loved the movie when we showed it Friday night. I mean, opening night. People loved it, you know. Um, but I wanted more. Personally, I wanted more. You know,
Fair enough.
she was married, to an actor, I believe. She has two sons who appear briefly in the movie. I want to know about the marriage. Why did the marriage fail?
Hmm.
Now, some people may say I don't want to know about that. I do. You know, um, life is hard knocks. And here's another thing. As you know, she was related to Whitney Houston, of course.
Hmm.
Literally, by she was related to Whitney Houston. She does talk about Whitney Houston, but in a more generalized way. Now, there are two really good documentaries on Whitney Houston. One by Nick Bloomfield, which we showed at Black Harvest a few years ago. Yeah, we showed it. And there's another one. Both of them are very good. But, of course, with Whitney Houston, that's a tragedy in itself. Okay. I mean, that I think one of the reasons why Dionne Warwick documentary fell short to me is because Dionne Warwick almost in a way had a perfect life. I mean, she really did. I mean, it wasn't necessarily dramatic.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Whitney Houston had a dramatic life.
Hmm.
Let's face it. She had a very dramatic life. She went from the highs of highs to the lowest of lows and then tragic, what happened to her. That in a way is made for a documentary. And actually right now they are shooting a feature film about her.
Oh,
It's called I Want to Dance with Someone. I Want to Dance with Somebody. I mean, they're shooting it right now. Up on the East Coast, like around Massachusetts, Boston, New York. It's being shot right now. I don't know. I don't know who's it for. I don't know if it's a feature. I don't know if this is for Netflix. I don't know really who this movie is for, but it's good. It's a good film. If you're a Dionne Warwick fan and you want to hear all those hit songs,
hmm.
it's all there.
And I guess maybe if people want to look, they don't know who Dionne Warwick is, they'll get some sense of who she is
Yeah,
without getting into the nitty gritty. So it's like a good introduction.
yeah, and she was a trailblazer in many many ways. She really was. Um, but I just wanted more. I
Yeah.
wanted more. I wanted to know more about her. Because life isn't all roses,
No.
and this movie portrays it like she walked down a rose petal strewn path with no potholes.
Okay.
That's okay.
It's
That's
interesting.
fine.
Yeah, I hear you. I also I liked, but Dolomite is my name, and I
Oh, I
liked.
love that film.
I wanted
See,
to
but
see I wanted to see the other movies though. I wanted to see it all end in fire with Disco Godfather.
oh
Like,
well,
Dolomite is great, but I wanted to see the other movies and then end with sort of the shit state that is Disco Godfather. That to me that was
do you
the movie I
mind
was
if
dreaming for.
I just step away for a second? I want to show you something.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Okay. Where's he going? What's he getting?
I got a surprise
It's
for you.
the memorabilia. I don't know what it is. Is it going to be an autograph? I feel like it's going to be an autograph or a picture with Sergio Mims, my guess right now, and Rudy Ray Moore, the legend himself. Or a prop. What if it was the costume that he was wearing in Disco Godfather? I don't know. We're going to have to find out soon. He's coming back.
All right, I had to go into another room
Yeah.
because you were talking about Dolomite.
I just ad-libbed for a bit. Yeah. What do you got for us? Dolomite for president.
Right.
Okay. Oh.
I've had these albums since they came out.
Well, you gotta give me. I have something to show you. 1 second.
Okay. Now he's going to get something.
Yeah. Now
I'm. And
Petey Wheatstraw.
Oh, Petey Wheatstraw. Very good.
I bought this at Amoeba Records on Sunset Boulevard.
No, Amoeba. It's still
Amoeba.
there. No, these are the original. These are the original.
This is the original too. This is from 1976. This is like
wow. It's such great condition. Wow.
It's a great condition. No, yeah, it's a good condition. Yep. But
wow.
No, 1977. It says it right there.
Yeah. Wow. That is great condition.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I'm a huge. I was raised in Dolomite. That film was so great. Like all movies about people, it mixes up some things.
Yeah.
You know, like mixes up the movies. Like when he's shooting a movie, actually there's some scenes
from Human Tornado in Dolomite.
Human Tornado that he mix in there and that kind of stuff. That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. I just love that film. It was such a loving tribute about a guy who had this impossible dream. He really had this impossible dream, and he pulled it off. You know.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's like what you're saying, like as a Dion Warwick fan, or us as Rudy Ray Moore fans, like we can imagine all the different alleys that could go down.
Oh yeah.
And even though it's great, it can also be like a little unsatisfactory to like a small extent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the fact that he was just recognized for what he achieved. Right.
Absolutely.
And
that's what it's all about at the end. Yeah.
Right. And I have friends who can quote lines from Dolomite and from Human Tornado. We all can,
Yeah.
It's
Bitch, are you for real?
Real? Yeah, I know. And he just like the great thing was that he simply rewrote the rules of cinema. That's what he did. He said, I'm gonna make the I'm gonna make the movie the way I want to make it.
Yeah.
Even if it means that, well, that's not the way you do it in a picture. Well, I don't care. This is the way I want it, and I like it this way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to repeat this scene when I jump over that hill.
Right.
Why? Because I thought it was pretty neat. It was me. I'm going to show it again in the movie. Genius. Just rewrite the rules of cinema. Why not? It's a movie. You can do whatever you want to do with it.
And the Vinegar Syndrome releases are incredible for those 4 movies.
Yeah. I have Dolomite, of course, and I have Human Tornado. Right.
Okay, yeah.
I don't. Disco Godfather and Petey Wheatstraw. Those 2 I don't have yet.
Oh, I got them all in one order. It was a good week. There was like 1 week. It was just Rudy Ray Moore Love Fest. It was beautiful. And then I met the writer of Dolomite Is My Name. Or one of the writers, Larry Karaszewski.
Karaszewski, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I met him he was in Toronto promoting that movie. And it was a real thrill.
Yeah, we follow each other on Twitter. He's from Indiana. He's from South Bend. Right.
That's right.
He's from Indiana. And we follow each other on Twitter. We have tweeted each other. I know he and his partner, Scott Alexander, they're going to write a movie about
Jerry Garcia. Yeah.
Is it just about Jerry Garcia?
Well, Jonah Hill plays Jerry Garcia. That's all we know. I mean, it's going to be able to do that, obviously. But yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah, well, they're perfect for it. They're
Oh,
really
of
perfect
course,
for it.
they're the
Right,
guys to do that,
right.
and they get they get, when they die, we will, say they wrote a movie for Scorsese.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit. So back to TIFF movies. I personally enjoyed Benediction. Um,
I
I,
yeah.
I enjoy miserable movies. So
Yeah.
what were your thoughts about that one?
Well, Terrence Davies is one of my absolute favorite filmmakers. That's
Okay.
not exaggeration.
No.
Um, y- you've met directors, I've met directors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, very few directors I met where I was almost
Yeah.
trepidatious about meeting them. And what was Terrence Davies? It was when his movie about Emily Dickinson came out.
Mm.
And he was here in Chicago, and he was at a screening for the movie, advanced screening. And Long Day Closes is one of my absolute favorite movies in the whole wide world. I love that film to death.
Wow.
Love that film to death. And I had the Criterion Blu-ray of it. And after the talk, the screening, he did the Q&A. He was leaving, and I came up to him and I said, excuse me, Mr. Davies, could you sign my copy, autograph of Long Day Closes? And he looked at me and he was moved. He said, no one has ever asked me for an autograph before.
Wow.
I said, really? He said, no. And I have it. Once again, it's in the other room. And he signed it. He autographed it for me. And we had a discussion actually about music after that.
Oh.
But Benediction is very much a Terrence Davies movie. It has all his touches, the slow pace, the quietness,
Mm.
very carefully put together, and a movie that says a lot was without saying much on the screen, if you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
His use of music is extraordinary, particularly the one sequence where he uses his cowboy song.
Mhm.
And I go like, wow, that's it works, but it in an odd way, right? It's about a British poet by the name of Siegfried Sassoon.
Mm.
Now, I will tell you, I had never heard of this guy before, and I had to look him up. Um, Siegfried Sassoon,
Mm.
and he was an English poet. Never had any sort of big fame during his lifetime. Though I think now, later on after his death, he's more appreciated. And also, he was an anti-war activist. After he was knighted, he was given a medal for heroism during World War One, and he was so sickened by the war,
Mm.
he threw it away.
Mm.
And also, the movie deals with his life. And also the fact that he converted to Catholicism late in life. And also he was a gay man. Even though he was married and he had a son, he was a closeted gay man. And what's interesting about this picture is the portrayal of, say, gay life in England during the 1920s, the 30s, because back at that time, you could be arrested um, in England. I mean, England and the United States had different rules about, I mean, in terms of legality, in terms of homosexuality. But in England, I mean, you could um, be sent to prison, even though there were gay people everywhere, you know. Uh, but it was a fascinating life. And this is what Terrence Davies also covers in this picture, a good section of this movie. What was it like to be a gay man in a very treacherous time when you try to live as openly as possible? But even then, um, Sassoon decided, I want to get ahead in life. I want to move on to my career. That means I'm going to have to get married. which is what a lot of guys did. And evidently, he turned out to be a very miserable guy the second half of his life. The final scene of that movie, A Benediction, where you hear one of his poems, while we see a wounded soldier who has lost his legs during World War I, is extraordinary. That
I
is
agree.
absolutely extraordinary sequence. And no, it's a Terrence Davies movie. I mean, it's quiet, it's studied. The use of music is amazing, and it's very much a movie about human emotions, but in a very restrictive time. And it's a. By the way, does it have a distributor yet? Is it going to be seen anywhere?
I don't know.
But I haven't heard.
I thought it was excellent too, and like, yeah, I can't say anything that you haven't already said. Just restrained quality.
Yeah,
yeah. I actually I have to say I haven't seen other Terrence Davies movies, so I really have to see some now because I really enjoyed Benediction.
This is not his first film in scope. The Neon Bible was also in scope, and that's an amazing picture too. If you his first film was Distant Voices, Still Lives, but you really have to see Long Day Closes, which is autobiographical. In a way, all his movies in some way or form are autobiographical. But Long Day Closes is about essentially his life as a young boy growing up in Liverpool. In the early 50s, when he really began to become obsessed about movies. But really, it's about this kid, this young boy, shouldn't call him a kid, young boy in this loving family. Well, not so. There's some scenes in the movie which aren't so loving, particularly when a black guy accidentally comes into the house looking for an address. Family doesn't respond well to that. But it's a movie about basically a young boy trying to figure out his place in the world. That's really what this film is all about. Long Day Closes. Where do I fit in the world? And because I'm not like the other kids, and he may not be able to articulate it, but he loves movies, and he's quiet, and he's pensive, and he observes things that other people will simply pass by. And there is some absolutely just jaw-dropping sequences in this movie where one particular scene where he remembers the Christmas Day celebration party, but Terrence Davies presents it as a tableau where like the screen, the walls open up, and we have this glowing spectacle of the family around the table, and the presents and the parties and the party hats. It's a wonderful sequence in the movie. And it's another scene where he's at school, and he just has this fantasy of being on the ship during a storm. And when we see the young boy, his face is wet from the mist and the rain, as if he's there on the ship. I mean, this movie is so visually alive and touching, and it's moving. And once again, it's pensive, it's quiet, incredible use of music, and particularly movie music. And it's a wonderful picture. And when I saw it, it knocked my socks off. I think it was and then I went back and watched Distant Voices, Still Lives, and I've seen everything he's done since then, because that was my first Terrence Davies movie, Long Day Closes, and it blew me away.
Beautiful.
Because in many ways, I saw myself. I was kind of like that kid who loved movies and didn't really fit with anybody else because I really like movies, you know. And nobody else liked movies like I like movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful.
You know, I remember, it's funny, you remind me, I remember, you know that British magazine Sight and Sound?
Yeah.
Okay, which I still read, it's still around.
Yeah.
I used to read Sight and Sound in high school. Okay.
Right. Right.
And I remember I was in a recess class or something, and I'm deep into a sight and sound a
Yeah.
magazine, and one assistant principal came over. I guess she thought I was reading a Playboy or something. She's
All
like, "What are
right.
you reading?"
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
okay. And I gave her the magazine, right?
Mhm.
And she looked at it, and she looked at me. She said, "Well, okay, never mind." Like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't I don't know what it's about. You know.
Right.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I really like Benediction a lot. I really do.
Okay, cool. And tell me about Attica, which looks at the prison
Oh,
industrial complex.
another movie we showed at Black Harvest, right?
Oh, cool.
Stanley
And the latest
Nelson.
step too. Cool.
Uh, sorry about that.
No worries. No worries.
Oh, wow.
Blackberry is so powerful, it makes you sick.
Wow. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, this is the movie about the Attica riot, uh, revolt
Hmm.
that took place 50 years ago.
Wow.
Wow. 50 years ago. In September of 1971. And Attica was a New York State prison in upstate New York.
Mm.
And the prison, and it had the worst reputation in the state, the worst. If they interview some former prisoners who were there, and they were like, if you committed a crime, you were sent to prison. The last prison you wanted to go to was Attica.
Mm.
There's Sing Sing. I'm sure people heard of that. That's in New York,
Mm.
but Attica was the worst. And like all prisons, big prisons, it's set in a prison town. In other words, the industry is the prison. People who live in the town of Attica, most of the people work at the prison.
Mm.
Either they work as guards or clerical work or cooks or something. It's a prison town. Okay. So whatever happens in the prison affects the whole town. And the prisoners there were tired of mistreatment. They were being beaten up by guards. There were incidents of prisoners who were taken by guards and they never returned. And really, their demands weren't that out of place. They weren't. They weren't. But the prisoners revolted. They took over the prison, the courtyard, and they held several guards hostage, a number of them. Now, the great thing about this documentary is that I remember Attica when it happened. I was a kid. I just remember there was a prison there and everything kind of went bad. But when you hear what really happened, it will shock you. It's unbelievable. Because essentially what happened was that the prisoners got what they wanted. And you go like, okay, but then what went bad? Well, what happened was one of the prisoners turned out to be a lawyer who was grandstanding, and he rejected it. They had a contract. He rejected the contract because it didn't have the official New York City seal. It doesn't need a seal for it to be legal. Things got worse. Eventually, guards came in, and it was a bloodbath. It was an absolute bloodbath. Many prisoners and many guards were killed. And one of the things that happened in the autopsy is that they proved that none of the guards during the when the police came in were killed by prisoners. They were all killed by police
Mm.
in a shootout. It's a harrowing film, and there are images in this movie which are you won't forget. I mean, the aftermath where you just see dead bodies everywhere and blood everywhere. It's just a pool of blood everywhere.
Sounds intense.
It was a slaughterhouse. And then there's one thing, and I don't know where he got this footage. Well, Stanley Nelson got this footage. There's another thing where after the riot, after the police had come in and killed like everybody, you see these shooters, the snipers, yelling "White Power." I go like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, it's unbelievable. What this movie really exposes what happened in Attica because it was so vague for decades that all we knew is that prisoners revolted, state troopers came in, snipers came in, a lot of people got killed. That's all we basically know about Attica. This movie reveals the truth about what really happened at Attica. Like everything Stanley Nelson does is really top notch. I really recommend Vanguards of the Revolution, his documentary about the Black Panthers. He always does extraordinary work. This is actually, you can watch this now on Showtime.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but for those in Chicago, come to the second screening this week.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
But yeah, but it's terrific. It really is. It's one of the best documentaries of the year, without question.
Oh, wow. Oh, great. So
Without question.
we'll definitely have to check that one out. Okay,
Yeah.
so I saved the worst for last.
Oh,
The Illogical Life of Louis Wayne. I found had a very obnoxious acting style. What did you
really?
think? I didn't like it. Yeah, I
It's
didn't like
good
it.
because I did.
Okay, that's good.
No, we can talk
It's
about
fun
this.
to disagree, right?
Yeah, it's fun to disagree. I did.
Yeah.
I went in not knowing much about Louis Wayne. Once again, I had to look him up.
Mm.
And when I saw his paintings, I said, "Oh, I've seen those before.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's just the cat. I've seen these before. I see them all the time. These cats, right?"
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that they were drawn by this guy, Louis Wayne, back almost 100 years ago. I didn't know that. Benedict Cumberbatch plays this very, very eccentric. It's arguably, we can now say he suffers from some sort of mental health issues,
Right, right.
which were somehow in the family, a family trait. And very eccentric. He could draw very fast with both hands. And he had this terrible burden that he had to be the financial responsibility for the family. And he wasn't really capable of doing that, even though his artwork was very popular. He mainly, for most years, did it for a newspaper. He never copyrighted anything he did.
Right, right.
So he didn't make any money off of it. And so the family really didn't have any money at all. And when I mean family, I mean his mother and his sisters. He was married briefly, and unfortunately, that ended tragically.
Yeah.
And you can see that after that, he really slowly started going up the deep end. I think the ending is quite moving. But what I do like about this movie is that this movie is done in a very eccentric style. Shot in 1.33. A number of films have been shot in 1.33 this year, which is kind of interesting. Going back to the old aspect ratio. Like Passing and French Dispatch, and there's another film that's shot in 1.33. It's coming back in vogue now. Okay. But the thing about it is that it is shot at a very not irritating, sorry.
I thought it was irritating.
That's your word.
But yeah,
it is shot in a very eccentric style because I think simply the director, who I've never heard of before, was trying to get into the mind of Louis Wayne. Sure. He's trying to see the world through Louis Wayne's eyes, which is why many sequences, particularly long shots of landscapes or backgrounds, are literally intentionally almost drawn in. Because we're seeing it through Louis Wayne's eyes. In other words, this is not real. This is like an illustration that he did. And I said, well, that's interesting, right? And right, because throughout the movie, when you have a long shot, it's CGI, is digital stuff, but usually they try, even though a lot of times they fail, they try to make it look as realistic as possible if you're doing the background. But in this movie, it's intentionally artificial. It is an illustration. We're seeing the world through Louis Wayne's eyes. It's an eccentric film, and Benedict Cumberbatch gives an eccentric performance in the movie. I think justifiably so. I'm kind of hot and cold on Cumberbatch, you know. But I think here, I haven't seen the Jane Campion film yet. I am seeing it this week. But everybody tells me how absolutely tremendous he is in Power of the Dog. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But I like him in this. I think he hits the right tone for this movie. I think he makes him very sympathetic.
Mhm.
He's a very sympathetic guy. We feel for him because a lot of things are simply out of his control.
Mhm.
They're out of his control. I mean, his mental illness, um, the pitfalls that life gives him are really out of his control. And I think at the end of this movie, it's moving because at first, finally he has maybe in some way somehow found some peace in what for him was a very chaotic life.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, we'll agree to disagree. I
okay,
respect
that's
you for
fine.
liking it, and I think I see it like as visionary and interesting, just not really working for me personally.
Okay.
But that's just my experience. But I want to thank you for your time. I had a lot of fun talking to you about what you're up
Oh,
to and these TIFF movies. It was a lot of fun. So my final question for you, Sergio, is: can we count on you coming here to Toronto to cover the festival in person one day?
not this year. And
Right.
the reason why, I have a valid reason.
Okay.
Okay. Cross your fingers. We'll
Yeah.
see how traveling is because usually I like to travel.
Right.
And I haven't been anywhere in 2 years, almost 2 years now. I haven't been anywhere.
Damn.
But in September, I am going to be in Lucerne, Switzerland. That's my plan for the Lucerne Summer Music Festival. I was there 8 years ago. I've always been wanting to go back.
Mm.
Finally, I go back. I've already booked a hotel room.
Oh, fun.
That's in September. I forgot the dates now. It's in mid-September.
It would certainly, if it's mid-September, it will certainly conflict with TIFF. Yeah.
It would. Sorry about that.
That's
It
good.
would conflict with Toronto. Doesn't mean I can still see movies. I can still
Sure.
see movies while I'm there.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Right. But
Cool.
that's why. It's the festival is in August and September, and I've already marked out the dates. I did this last week. I booked a hotel room. Haven't bought the tickets yet. I booked a hotel room, and so that's my plan. That's why I won't be there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
But I'll be there in
maybe
spirit
future,
because I still
we're
be
not
watching
ruling it out.
movies.
Pardon me, sorry?
I'll be there in spirit because I still be watching movies.
Well, that ultimately counts the most.
Right.
All right. Well, Sergio, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was fun.